Yeah, but how you been?
I've never had this issue. I've literally never had this issue.
It's a Zoom gods. They don't want us to have this
I
conversation. We're
guess,
about to deliver too
right?
much value.
I totally agree. I'll take it like that, right?
Yeah. How you been though? I know, honestly, since high
Good.
school, like I knew of you, but I never really like said hi or anything.
Yeah.
But it's funny how life
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy to think like, okay, it's weird. I feel like I graduated high school. The people I was friends with, I
Right.
never really spoke to again. And the people that I was like, oh, hey, like, you know each other, but don't like talk or
Yeah.
anything, are the people that I've like reconnected with somehow.
Exactly.
I'm like,
Yep.
hey, I'm cool with it.
You just
It's
eventually
okay.
find out that they have similar interests. Like it starts to narrow down, to what you actually
Yeah,
like to do. So it's
definitely.
pretty cool. But what are you
Definitely.
doing? Like, I heard you talk about that you're into the finance, a certain finance thing.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the process of branching out my business. I work for a financial firm, and so I'm kind of on that point right now of just helping people, especially people our age, just
Okay.
learn about money, like just learn
Hell
about
yeah.
what is important because like a little bit about myself, I came from, I know I'm white, right? And everyone thinks that white people,
Or
they're
rich or
educated,
something.
they know about money, they have all these benefits, right, of being white. And to be honest, I mean, I grew up in Anaheim, so that says something in itself, right?
Yeah.
My parents weren't really educated about money, and they were living their best with the education they had. And I think too, like you always want to do different from your parents. Like you look at my grandparents, and they were very smart with their money. And then you look at my parents. My dad wanted to own his own business. He went and owned his own business and was not very smart with money. And I think sometimes you're young and in love, and you just follow what
You
what
buy dumb shit.
your yes. And so like I
Does
feel
he
like
still own his business? Does he own a business though?
no. So
Okay.
my dad passed away 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So, and
Sorry about
prior
that.
to that, no, thank you. It's prior to that, 8 years prior to that, he had a heart attack when he was 50 years old, and pretty much health just declined. His business, we had to file for bankruptcy. So, like, talk about like someone who's went through the complete opposite and totally understands how you can completely kind of, I wouldn't say ruin things, but like how not to handle your money. I
Right.
learned that. Like that was my example. That was my example of, hey, this is what you're supposed to do, or in my case, what you're not supposed to do. So I actually stumbled upon the industry. I never thought that I would be in finances, but like it opened my eyes to you never learn it in high school. You never learn it in college. I almost feel like they don't want to teach you because if they taught you, then in a sense, they wouldn't have so much control over you.
Right.
That's kind of how I
And
feel
they
personally,
would have a less rate of people going to college because then they figure out like, oh,
Yes,
this is where I can put my money. Like, oh, dang, so it's
yes,
crazy.
yes. Well, and it's like, you go to college and you get into hundreds or, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. And then for what? Like, I'm a college dropout personally. Like, I went there and thankfully, like, I'm so blessed to have, like, met someone who was in the financial industry, gave me an opportunity. And now I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to school. And I'm not going to tell people don't go to school, don't go to college. Like, if you know what you want to do, if you know that it takes you going to college, okay, by all means go.
Right.
But if you want to be like an entrepreneur, if you want to have a business, I mean, I have friends that are going to school for a business degree, and to be
The
honest,
corporate world.
half of their
Yeah.
professors have never even ran a business. So it's like,
That's the
so
worst,
really, who are
man.
you taking advice from? Like you're
Yeah.
taking advice from someone who truthfully went to school to tell you how to run a business, but they've never actually had the experience themselves. So it's, or you've had the people who have tried to run a business, ran it unsuccessfully, and then took that business degree and became a professor.
Right.
So, I think it's so important just to tell people about, like, hey, let me educate you. And that's why, like, when I saw your post, I'm like, yes, I love it, but like, let me just tell you more because
Yeah.
I love the path you're going. but I think like there's some tweaks that, you know, you can do if you want to,
I love
if you see
learning.
value in that. Or like you have so many people who are following you. I love the post you shared the other day about how people are like, hey, I love watching your stuff because it makes me want to save. And that's what we need to do, honestly.
Yeah, and it's
is
like,
we just need to be smart.
yeah, it could be like a little iffy because it's so like, well, how can I say this? Like, it's so different for people that are in a mindset of spending so much, and they're so comfortable with how they spend that it's so new to them to switch that mindset to actually save and actually live like minimal. You know, I'm not saying everybody has to live like me, like minimal, but there should be a definite like cut in how much you spend, because that's what's
100%.
gonna really, yeah, that's how you're gonna level like your finances. And you know, and let's talk about goals. Like, I don't think people necessarily need to have an initial goal to save, but I think it's so important to save because you never know when the opportunity is gonna hit you, and then
Yep.
that could be like the moment. Like, fuck, I got all this money, and it's time. It's time to like double down on that idea or whatever you're trying to do. You know? And
Right.
it's,
And I think too, we don't have the habit. Like even just a small
yeah,
saving habit, no one even has the habit. Like I sit down with my clients and sometimes I have to ask because truthfully, before I got into the industry, I didn't even have a savings habit. A lot of kids, like it's not like your parent says, hey, when you start making money, because, you know, we're 17, 18 years old when we start
right.
working, what do we want to do with our money? You know, at that age, we can't even drink and we want to go buy beer. You know, at that age, you know, we just
It's
want to
easy.
go and
It's,
have
yeah,
fun and do all the luxury things. And it's like, hold on, like, why don't, and that's the thing too, is if we learn now, and a lot of people our age are having kids, like teach your kids now, like just save. Like even teach your 10-year-old, just put $5 away and then have
yeah,
that savings habit of just like, hey, I know I always need to save. And so it's like the same thing when you're a kid, you know, you get the allowance and what are you saving for? You're saving for something.
right.
Now we need to take that idea, like that kid idea of like, let me have that goal of like saving for the Xbox or whatever it was when we were younger and save that, like have that mentality of like, hey, I want to buy a house. How do I buy a house? You don't, like the saying, you don't eat an elephant just one bite at a time. It takes so many small little bites. So we have to make that savings habit.
Right. 100%.
And this is the time, like we're young and everyone's like, oh, we're young. Like talk about savings now, do that when I'm older. And then you have people who are 40 years old and they're like, I haven't even saved one dime for my retirement. And then what? You know, or I haven't saved one dime to even buy a house. And then they look back and they start regretting things. It's like, no, like you just need to be educated.
Right.
Like,
You need to be
and I
exposed
think,
to the experiences.
yes. And that's what I was going to say is like, I think it's not necessarily education because I think people aren't even searching for like, oh, let me learn. They're just like, oh, just let me spend.
Right.
Let me just live in the now. And I mean, living in the now is great, but for how long? And
It's just like I say that my theory is this temporary happiness. Like it really is. Because I've done a lot of things that I've in the past where I'm guilty of, like just buying and spending on things like, oh yeah, you know, like hey, we gotta live now, like, you know. But at the end of the day, 6 months later, I was still complaining about not having enough money to like start that thing, like in this case, my
yeah.
videography business. And now that's how I know. But like, what kind of clients do you also get? Like, what are some of their issues that they have?
So number one is like they don't even have a savings habit, right? It's like
Yeah.
number one, you talk to them and you ask them like, how much money do you have saved? And they're like, $100, like, you know, and like, well, how long have you been saving? 5 years. Like, so they don't have a savings habit is number one. Number two is like you said, like they don't have a goal or they don't have long-term thinking of what I need to do. They have very like, no one's talked to them or they've never like you're saying, have a goal. If you have goals, if you have ideas of where I want to go, then you can start to plan out, okay, how do I get there? And I think right now we're in kind of the age of no one really, I think we're in that social media age where you see someone who has the nice cars and has going to these nice restaurants and has a nice house, and everyone thinks of like, oh, I want that. I want that. And they think like, oh, that person didn't work hard. That person never, you know, saved money. They just think like, oh, that just happened overnight. And they don't see like 10 years ago what they looked like.
Right.
And so
100%.
they just want. And I think we need to really just stop and start to like have an idea, have goals of, hey, where do I want to go and how do I get there? So that's number 2 is a goal. Just like you said, like that's so big. Like you need to have a goal. You need to have something in mind. You need to have a reason of why you're saving.
Absolutely.
Like put something behind it.
Do you think people need a budget? Like, honestly, do you think it's more of a mindset game, or do you think people actually need a budget? Do you think some people need to write down their numbers and see where they're at?
I think it's both. I think you have 2 different types of people. I mean, I'm kind of like the OCD, like I need something to see, but at the same time, like that could work for me 1 month, and then the next month it doesn't work, you know? So I think there's also like that idea of having that mindset of where am I going? What are my goals? Why am I doing what I'm doing? But then, of course, seeing it on paper and like, if you have like something, a budget, like for instance, I don't even think, we were never taught how to have a budget. Like really, I mean, what class did we ever have that said, here's how you balance your checkbook, or here's how you make sure all these bills that you have are getting paid? And you know, like we never had that. So
there wasn't a class,
concept.
right? There wasn't a class, but I don't know if you remember, did you take economics in high school?
Yeah.
Did the teacher ever tell you anything about credit card usage? I think that's what kind of reeled me into like thinking more long-term about money. Because I forgot his name, but he mentioned the credit card. He mentioned that you should spend like $1. He said $1. He said spend $1 and pay it off, because he was assuming we're gonna get a job anytime soon. So he's like, spend $1 and then just pay it off. You know, and that's kind of like the thing that triggered me too. Like I forgot his name. I forgot the teacher's name, but he was an econ teacher, and that's the only. I'm just saying, like that's the only thing that was talked about in high school as far as finance. Yeah. You know, so I completely agree. Like this is not talked about enough in high schools or maybe college, right? I didn't really take finance in college or anything, but
I didn't either. But I don't even think, like, I took enough general ed. Tell me I took enough general ed, and that's why I was like, I'm out. Like, I can't do this anymore. But I don't ever remember taking, like, a general ed finance class, anything like that. I took a math class, but, of course, like, they don't tell you about anything of that nature.
Right.
So I think, too, like, what you're saying is credit cards are, like, scary. Right, and I learned that with. Have you ever heard of the rule of 72?
The one, sorry.
The rule of 72.
I think I've seen it or heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
Okay, I'll have to share my screen with you in a second because I want to show you. Okay?
Let's do it.
But it's like, I learned it like specifically in finance, right? But they one time said, okay, now think of this towards your credit cards. And I think, too, you go to a college campus and there's people there that want you to sign up for a credit card. And when you're young and dumb, you just, hey, let me sign up for that credit card and let me max it out because I'll pay it off later. And, you know, so we don't.
You think you got it figured out.
You do. And unfortunately, I think there's a part of, like, number one, your parents kind of want you to, like, okay, now you're an adult, you gotta just live like you're an adult, like you can handle it. And then, you know, I don't know, I just never was taught, and I don't blame my parents for that, I really don't. In a sense, I think I'm thankful that I got into an industry that really educates you early on. So now I have the benefit of, okay, I'm 28 years old, and literally the other day I didn't even know how old I was, but I'm 28 years old, and now I have the opportunity to learn all these things, to teach other people about these things. So they're at our age, maybe they're a little younger, a little bit older, but they're learning about stuff and doing things now that will benefit them years to come. So let me share my screen because I really want to show you.
Got it.
All right. So the rule of 72 was actually, you know Albert Einstein, right? I always
Yes, of
call him the
course.
crazy with the white hair. Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy guy. So he came up with this rule. I mean, I guess I don't know really if he invented it or how that works, but pretty much he's saying that if you get interest on your money, so this instance is like growing your money, but you can go the opposite way, right? Of like actually getting taxed on your credit cards. But he's saying every percentage you get on your money, if you divide that by 72, that's how many years it'll take for your money to double. So, if you get 1% on your money, it takes 72 years to double your money. So, I mean,
And what's the
most people
percentage
think
on,
that
like,
the bank, right?
what was that?
Interest on your money. Interest on your money. So,
Oh,
like,
okay.
like, for instance, number one, like the first column, right? That's like, say you're saving money in the bank. Do you know how much interest the bank gives you?
Not a lot, right? It's less.
No.
Is it less than 1% actually, or like maybe
Less than
2%?
1%.
Yeah, is it
Less than
that's
1%. Yeah. So let's just say your bank, I don't know, they like you. I don't know, they think you're cute, or they just being extra nice. They have some special that day, and they give you 1% on your money. So if I put 10 grand in there, it's going to take me 72 years for my money to double, right? So you can see, obviously, the higher your percentage on your money, the more your money grows. But if you think about that, like, let's think of like the average credit card interest rate right now.
which is like
What do you think?
14%, 15%.
I think they're up to like 20%, to be honest.
Well, with bad credit, right?
Yeah,
Because I do have a
okay.
credit card.
So,
Yeah, but it's like at 13%. I haven't used it. It's 13%.
okay. So, like, even like look at that as like 10%, right? So that means, like, if you think about it, your money in your credit card, so say you have $10,000 in debt on that credit card, that debt is doubling every 7.2 years. So if you don't pay it off, you're going to double the amount of debt you owe.
Right, and that's paying the minimum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's
And so,
the
like,
thing that.
and
So
most
crazy.
people pay the minimum because they just don't, like, understand, like, hey, let's think about it, right? Like, so this example, right, is, of course, like, where you want to save your money, and you're all about saving. So my question for you is, Mr. Saving Man, where do you save your money?
Where do I save my money? I put it
Yes.
straight in the bank, and I use it for ads to, like,
Okay.
yeah, build my brand or get more clients. And I use it as a way of an investment, you know?
Right.
But there's a lot of talk that you should put it into stocks, that you should, obviously buy real estate. Those are all great options. But I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it has to map out to the things that you want to do. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Right.
100%. And I don't think that, do you know that there's 3 ways that money can grow?
I'm going to guess, what is it, like 401k, or like,
No.
see, the little things like
No,
that I don't really know about.
okay, so I'm just going to go to the next slide because this is where it's going to be at right here. Okay, so have you ever heard of any of these?
Never. Fixed,
Never.
variable.
Okay, so this is the 3 ways that money can grow. Number 1 is fixed. So, like, if you think about it, your bank, right?
Oh.
Like, they, on the bottom of your statements, it'll say, I believe, SFSICU, I think is what it says on your bottom, right? And it pretty much states, like, no matter what, you put your money in, we'll give you your money back, right? So it's safe. That's why people put the money in the bank, because it's safe, right?
Right.
But in reality, are we really growing our money there? No, right? And then you're talking about, let's go to stocks, let's go to 401ks, let's go to your house, right? All of that is variable, right? Meaning that we have no control over that. Like, if the market goes up, hey, we're winning that day. But, COVID happens, everyone freaks out, and they let all their stocks go, and the market crashes, right?
Right.
And then we're sitting over here.
So
and
those
like,
are risky.
well,
Those are risky savings. You're putting your savings in risk, right?
Exactly. So then you go to index, and you've never heard of index before, right?
Never.
So it's I like to say it's the 2 of them getting married. Okay, so you got a little bit of the both, right? And I look at it as you have the benefits of both, right? So I have the benefits of knowing my money is secure, but I have the benefits of knowing that if the market goes up, so does my money.
Okay.
So as you can see right here, right? When the market goes up, right, I'm right here, my money goes up. But then as you can see, when the market crashes, I go locked or I go fixed.
Okay.
And then when the market goes back up, my money goes up, but then when the market goes down, I stay fixed.
Right. Until it comes back up, whenever it comes back from the drop.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this right here, I mean, the number one reason no one knows about it, or no one gets it, I should say, is because no one knows about it. And two, why else do you think?
Because no one's teaching it. The government doesn't want you to know about it
Exactly.
either.
Exactly. It's that, and it's because no one even knows. Like, if I knew how. So, have you read Tony Robbins? What's the book called? Why
Man,
am I
I did not
blanking
read.
out? Oh man, neither. Okay,
Tony Robbins?
I'm gonna be honest.
I know who he is,
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a big reader either, but I learned to read because I feel like you kind of have to, right? Like you don't have to, but there's some things like, hey, am I gonna Google it, and then maybe I'll find out this is something good, right, for me to read. So in Tony Robbins, he's telling you like how to invest your money, how not necessarily to get rich, because I think the word rich can be defined differently for everyone, right? But
growing your money.
He talks about an indexed account.
And that's a bank thing? Banks have that?
No. Nope.
So what is that, through a brokerage or something?
Yeah. So certain firms can offer it. Not every firm can offer it. And there's a couple different ways that you can get this, but there's not many. So let me see if I can go through this really quick. Okay, so like this is just a perfect example of risk, right? Like if I were to put my money in, say, the stock market, I'm going to start out with $100. If the market crashes to 50%, I'm left with $50, right? But most people would think like, oh, the market just has to rise up 50% and then I'll get my money back. But in reality, the market actually has to rise up 100% for you to get back what you lost.
Right.
So this is just like a quick little thing here, but let's see. Taxes. Ever thought about taxes? Yeah.
Freaking taxes.
Yeah, so this is a whole other thing that I don't even know if you talked about. Honestly, I was trying to like a little bit like read a lot of your things, but so something that there's two things that are secure in life that no one can change, right? And that's number one is death. Like, unfortunately, we're all going to pass away, right? And number two is taxes, right? Uncle Sam is never going anywhere. We're going to have to pay taxes. So this is just about how to put your money in places where you don't have to pay taxes, or to just be a little bit smarter about it. But this is actually kind of where I get my information of like how you want something that's indexed. It would be actually right here.
Tax advantaged?
Yeah.
Also, it's through a Roth IRA? Is that the index thing?
No. So Roth IRA is a variable account.
Okay.
So you get tax advantages, but it is a variable account. If you get a cash accumulation life insurance policy, it's indexed and it's tax advantage.
Okay.
So, but that's like, I feel like when you start to talk about that stuff, everyone's like, they're talking about life insurance. I'm not going to die. I'm good. So that gets into a whole other subject, but I think that honestly, saving, you just have to know where you want to save, right? And that all starts with being educated on, let's go back to like this right here. I mean, not a lot of people know. Not a lot of people know, like, hey, there's options for me to save. Where are my options to save? Not a lot of people know about the Rule of 72. Like, so they're going to put their money in the bank and then hope to God that something happens to it and I get rich, or I get wealthy, or whatever your word is, right?
Right.
I think the idea is knowing like, hey, savings is good. Like, I love your every time I see your post, I'm like, yes, like, I love it. But
right?
then it's
Because
like the next level of like, hey, if I'm going to start saving, now let me start saving with a little bit of intelligence and a little bit, not the intelligence, it's not my word, a little bit of like
where can I put my money so it can work for me if you don't? Because the
exactly.
thing with me, yeah, the thing with me is that I'm saving, but I'm using my money in my business. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
working that way. I mean, I
Mhm.
wouldn't be wrong to put it in those type of things too, right? I mean, because
Right.
if it's just sitting there, then it's still working for me, and that's a
Yep.
great idea actually. What's it called
Yeah.
again? The
Yes.
indexed account.
Index.
And
Yes.
what is that? How do people get that? How do people get their money there?
So there's a, I'm not going to show you all these slides because I honestly think they're boring sometimes, but there is this idea that if we have a family that is just your average Joe family, they're kind of in a sense capped at like how much money they're going to make. And
Okay.
I don't mean that being messed up. Like, I don't mean that in any way. I think my family personally was capped, right? Because to an extent, if you only have so much education on where to put your money, on if I should rent a house or own a house, what are the benefits of both, if I should really have credit card debt or if I should pay all my credit card debt off and only pay with cash, right? Like there's so many things that you can do with your money. You're
Right.
kind of limited because you just don't know how to benefit yourself with those tools. So then you have the families that are higher, like they there is no cap, truthfully, right? And the reason being is because they've talked to someone. I mean, I think about it this way: you go to the doctor because you want to know what's wrong with your body. Why do you go to a doctor? They've had years of experience, whether it's with their patients or going to school, so they know, I know your body, right? And then you go to a dentist because they know experience in your teeth. But I think what we do is we go to our neighbor and say, hey, like, what do you do to save money? And we go to our coworker, and when we're signing up for our 401k, we say, hey, bro, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing?
Right.
But they're your coworker. Like, they don't know. They know probably the same as you, the less than you, and that's who we're going to for our advice. So I think the bottom line is you have to sit down with someone who's in the industry, right? And I'm not saying that because I'm in the industry. I'm saying that because I benefited from talking to someone in the industry.
Right. And not only that.
Happens now I'm in the industry.
Right. And you've experienced it too, right? Like
right,
going to
100%.
that. Yeah.
100%. Actually, so I got into the industry after my dad passed. Okay. And in a sense, I mean, so I help people with saving their money, right? Of course, right? That's why I talk to you, and because saving money is important, right? I help people with their retirement. I help people with long-term care. I help people with life insurance. And I personally went through the life insurance part, right, where someone sat down with my parents and literally said, okay, you're the male, so your life matters more, and we're going to give you more. And then you're the wife, so you don't make as much, which wasn't even true, by the way. My mom made more than my dad, so you're going to get less, right? And then never came back, and I think our lives changed, right? So I went through that personally, but I'm so glad that someone there was saving too, because truthfully, I've had thousands of dollars of debt in credit card debt, and I never learned how to save. And now, because I sat with someone, now I know how to save, and I feel like I'm saving in the right places. I'm not saying I don't save in the bank, because I think we should save in the bank. Like you're saying, hey, what if I want to invest in my business? What if I want to, there's a time and there's a place for you to invest in the bank.
Right.
It's just, are you investing everything in the bank? Right? That's kind of like the biggest thing, right? Like if my saving habit is only like $20 right now, does it make sense? I mean, it could make sense, but I think every person is different. Everyone has different situations. What works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for me, because we're all different and we're all going through different situations. So I think like having an index option, talk to someone like a financial advisor. They can tell you. Now I'm going to tell you, don't go to the bank and say, can I talk to a financial advisor? Because a lot of times they don't have those options. So I would say talk to someone outside of a bank. And number two,
Talk to Linzy, guys. Talk to Lindsay.
Yeah.
She'll take care
Yes.
of you.
I will. I will. And honestly, I think, like, I just want you to know, and to everyone who's going to watch this, that I've been there, and the reason that I am in the industry is not to make money. I mean, making money is great, but the reason I'm in the industry is because I've experienced it firsthand, and I know how much it can help me and how much it has helped me. And so I'm like, hell yeah. And my thing is, like, we need to help people around our age. Like, this is the time. Like,
exactly.
So many of us want to have our own
Impact.
businesses. So many of us want to just, like, own houses, have kids, and not have to worry about, like, hey, how am I going to pay for the diapers next week? Like, we want to have a life that we're not stressing about. So let's get educated on why we need to save.
Right.
Where we need to save. And like,
let's narrow it down.
Let's
put a stop to this about wealth and rich. Like, what's your definition of wealth, and what's your definition of rich?
There are two different definitions. My definition of wealth, honestly, is to where I don't have to look at my bank account, where I can swipe my card and know that there is no question of whether or not if I have money for right now, or if I have money for even a year to 2 years from now.
Financial freedom.
That's my definition of wealth. 100% financial freedom.
Right.
My definition of rich has nothing to do with money. My definition of rich has to do with, I know that the relationships I have with people, the relationships I have with my kids to be, is full of richness. Of like, I literally care so much about the people that I have around me that literally I just want to smile. Like, it gives me chills talking about it, because I think, like, we have to just want to be happy. And, like, it not have to be about wealth. It has to be about, like, are the people that I have around me benefiting me? And am I benefiting them? Adding value to their life and them adding value to my life. Whatever that may look like. You
couldn't have said it better, honestly. For that, I have never actually thought about it like that, for what it means to be rich, you know? For me, it was more like materialistic people that are just trying to, you know, on a material way, like on the mindset of a rich person that is not even there yet. But when you talk about rich on someone that is also wealthy, you're right. Like, it's all about the valuable relationships and just value, you know? That's completely agree with you with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I turn that table around you now? Now that I've talked about it, what is your definition of wealth?
I mean, I don't know how to rephrase it, but yeah, the same thing with wealth, like financial freedom, not worrying about when, like, looking at your bank account, like going somewhere, a restaurant, not having to worry about, like, oh, we can't do this, we can't spend that much, or, you know, because we're not going to have enough money for next time. And it just really narrows down to that. Never having to worry, never being stressed about if you're going to have money or not. And that's why I talk about saving money all the time. Like, there's so much discipline in this that people don't get it. Like, that mental switch, like, it's just so important to, like, look deep inside yourself and, like, realize that, fuck, like, I'm tired of being stressed, you know? And there's a lot of other things, you know, because everybody's situations are different. We can't tell people to just save. I know you got to spend on certain things, but there's a way to the madness. I'm pretty sure you can agree with that, right?
Yes, it's like, do you want your Starbucks coffee 5 times a week, or do you want financial freedom in 5 years?
Exactly.
Like, right? I mean, and I'm guilty of it too. Hey, if you watch my Instagram, you know I love pumpkin spice, so I'm on that.
But you can afford it. That's what I'm trying to say. You're not gonna worry because you're good. You got the leverage, right?
Yeah, and yes, and I think sometimes there's like, to splurge a little bit, and like, it's like your diet, right? Like, if I had a strict diet every single day, I would hate my diet, right? But if I know, like, okay, I'm gonna work hard 5-6 days a week, and on Sunday or whatever day I can have a cheat day. Do I go all out and eat everything? No, right? And it's the same thing with your savings. Like, have little, like, reward yourself. Like, say your goal is, I want to save $100 this week, or I want to save, I mean, some people aren't even at that level, so let's just go with like $100 a month. Okay, now let me do this. If I can get to my goal of $100 a month, let me just push it a little bit, right? And let me push it to like 125, and then I'm gonna take that $25 and I'm gonna reward myself.
Right.
Because I knew it was hard, and maybe like I couldn't get my Starbucks. Maybe I had to go to the AM PM and get $1 coffee, or I had to buy coffee from the store and make it because it's a lot cheaper, right?
Of course.
But like the little things like of just like changing that thing, like, okay, the Starbucks that I'm getting every day, how much am I spending? Or the fast food that I'm buying every single day, how much am I spending? Like, I love seeing your food posts about let's eat some eggs and
freaking
toast.
soup.
Like,
is that people don't understand. Okay, people don't understand how much $5 adds up every day, or 10 or 15, because people don't like to eat. It's sad. Like, people don't like to eat the same shit every day, so they're gonna go and eat, different foods that cost different prices, and it adds up. But then they don't realize how much they're wasting, because like when they get their paycheck, let's say it's like $800 or whatever, it seems like a lot, but it adds up, and now you're just left with almost nothing. And
it does, and I think that's why sometimes budgeting is so important. And maybe it's not even budgeting. It's like, let me just go to my last month's like bank statement and see what I really spent my money on.
Right.
And like
right
I remember, I literally remember this, right? I had a credit card, okay, and I maxed this out, okay? This was a couple years ago, and I went to go look. What the hell did I buy that I maxed this card out? Do you know what I bought? Food. I guarantee you 80% of that credit card was food. And I'm like, really? Really? Like, I had food at home. Why didn't I just eat food at home?
Right.
And now, like, like a couple years later, now I'm like sitting here like, how the heck am I going to pay it off? Like, because you're learning, right? Sometimes you have to learn, sometimes you have to learn by doing the wrong thing.
Going through
right?
the failure, right? Of course.
Yes. And I mean, sometimes that's the best way to learn, but anyone who's listening
doesn't mean yeah, exactly. Doesn't mean you go and get a credit card and fuck up.
Exactly. So, but like my point to that is like you're saying, like the little things, like all of that adds up. And by the way, you put it on a credit card and that's a crap load of interest you're adding to it, So let's be smart about, hey, if you've got food at home, whether it be beans, tortillas, Maruchan, I'm all for that stuff. Honestly, I'm like the cheap budget. I want
to say something real quick.
Cool.
I do the Maruchan as I guess the word's hyperbole. Like just to insinuate, is that the right word?
Yeah, insinuate.
Like,
yeah.
You don't have to live that frugal, because I know a lot of people do talk that it's very bad for your health. I completely agree with that. But sometimes if you're really fucking broke, you gotta go down to that level. Like, depending on where you're at life, it's just so important.
And I think
some
of us all have to do that. I mean, honestly, I think sometimes depending on where you're at, like it might not be the ideal diet, but like, hey, say right now, I really want to push the business I'm in. Yeah. I really want to like just kill it in what I'm doing, and I don't have the extra funds to be spending on, even like you said, like a $5 whatever, wherever you're at, because now it's not just like Carl's, you can go anywhere and get like a $5 box, right? I could spend that $5 doing something else. Like you're saying, like I could spend it doing ads. I could spend it doing something, investing in myself, investing in my business, investing in my 100%. Future.
Right.
Why am I going to spend it on food? And I think I totally get what you're doing. Like it's not like I'm like this kid for sure eating cup of noodle every single day.
You're the brains of how to invest. And I'm just trying to get people on the practical applications of like, this is how you save. Like, this is how you fucking start, and it's kind of like, I mean, what would be like a good amount of money to start on it? What is it? An indexed account.
Okay. So, I mean,
for the average Joe.
This is what I would say. You want to be saving 10% of what you're making.
Okay.
Right? So that could look different for everyone.
Every month? Putting in every month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So that could look different to anyone, right? Depending on, I mean, my income could be different than your income, could be different than every single person that's going to watch this, right?
Right.
So 10% could be different. And the idea of that is that's your starting point, right? Like, I think, and I heard this in church, okay? So, and it blew my mind. The idea that we're supposed to save like a percentage of our income, I never learned that. Like, I thought 100% of the income was mine, and it was just like, I'm going to blow it. And I think that's where we like change, like you said, it's the mindset. It's the,
Right.
let me start, and honestly, it could be that starting with the savings habit of your, like you're saying, like, let's just start. Start with
That's all
something.
yeah.
Because that's where it starts, is just with the something. But I think that I can't give you an amount because everyone's different.
Right.
Right? And also too, if I give you an amount, I'm going to tell you, right? Like, if I give you the amount of $200 a month, to some people that could be like, no problem. And to some people that could be like,
oh, hell
$200? What? Like, that's my car insurance and my car, like, gas, whatever, right? And they're like, there's no way. And then I could be talking to someone and say $1,000 is what you should be saving a month. And you could be talking to someone and they say, no problem, $1,000, cool. And then you talk to someone and they're like, that's what I make in a week. What do you mean $1,000 a month? That's impossible. So again, I can't give you a dollar amount. But what I would
it's different
say
for everybody.
is follow him and get onto this let's start saving habit and just start. Because I think so many of us are stuck in the okay, tomorrow will start.
Right.
It's not guess what, guys? It's the first of the month, so let's start today. Because a lot of people say, I'll start at the beginning of the month, right? So we chose a perfect day,
yeah.
right? So, but it's all about just starting. Have
just like
that
anything
little
else.
habit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no one likes going to the gym. No one likes doing anything hard. Let's be honest. Saving is not easy. Working out is not easy. Taking care of ourselves is not easy.
But it's
worth it.
Yeah. It's a hustle. Yeah. Like, it's just a mindset that we keep saying.
100%.
But all right, Lindsay, my time is up, and I gotta go do dad duties. I would show you what my daughter just did earlier, but
oh God.
Yeah, it's crazy. But thank you so much for coming in my little like random. It's not even a podcast, like I said. It's more like just having conversations, you know.
Yeah.
And then I'll post them. But thank you so much for the value and sharing this with other people that they might find helpful.
You.
Guys, follow
Thank
Lindsay.
you.
I will post her link and social media on the video. And get your money
follow
right.
This guy too. I mean, I hope everyone's following you, but I hope that you tag me so I can post it on my page and people can follow you, because honestly, it takes people like you to get them to me. So we all just, the idea is we should all just be winning, and whatever winning looks like to you.
Exactly.
Whatever it looks like.
All right, Lindsay. Thank you so much.
Have a good night. Spend time with your daughter, right? Your daughter.
Yes, my daughter.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Good night.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.